Max Verstappen has offered his thoughts on whether or not the team should be looking for a replacement for Lawson or focus on other things, as it seems like maybe the Austrian squad is in bigger trouble than we thought after the poor first two races of the Kiwi driver. Will Red Bull decide to call it quits on the long-awaited protégé that was supposed to be very close to Verstappen? And if so, will the Tsunoda promotion result in a greater overall result for the team? There is no doubt that the hottest topic in the Formula One world right now is the current situation in Red Bull, because if we're to look at how things stand, they are definitely not good for Liam Lawson. Having such poor results in both qualifying and the race, especially in China with three disqualifications where he still failed to score points, it's obvious that he's under a lot of threat, especially from Tsunoda. The Japanese driver is having a great season so far, at least if we're to look at Saturday's performances, as the main reason why he isn't with double-digit points already is the strategy of the team. Nevertheless, Verstappen set a very high benchmark because he's driving with a very sensitive car, one that he is extracting a lot of performance from, but it's still not enough to fight for race wins. What this means is that whoever is being put next to him will have a very troublesome time adapting to the car, at least according to the words of the four-time world champion. Elaborating further on this and giving an assessment of the car's behavior under Liam's hands, Max said, "If you look at the difference between the two drivers at the other teams, they are all closer together. It also shows that our car is extremely tough. I think if you put Liam in the Racing Bulls car, he will go faster. I really think so. That car is easier to drive than ours. Last year, I didn't think the difference between him and Tsunoda was that big. Otherwise, the team wouldn't make the choice to put him in at Red Bull either." The situation is clear to understand. Verstappen knows what type of beast he needs to tame every time he goes out on the track. And he also knows that there aren't many drivers who are able to do so on the current grid. This is something that has been talked about by Horner as well, who went on to explain why the four-time world champion, even with a lot of struggles, is still managing to get the maximum out of the car. Elaborating further on this, Horner said, "Max is quite specific in what he wants from a car to make it fast, and that is generally a very positive front end on the car, a very sharp turn-in. Of course, the consequence of that is it will unsettle the rear of the car, and that, for a driver, is tremendously sapping if you've got a loose rear end on this car on entry into corners. That is where Max excels. That is where he is able to live on a knife's edge of adhesion." What is worth noting is that Verstappen is the one who is talking a lot about the car's issues. So if you have such a tremendous talent like the four-time world champion being so unhappy and insecure with the car, then you can understand why he feels like there won't be any improvement if another second driver is brought into the team. F1 Insider also reported that Verstappen is not happy that the team is instantly looking to change Lawson rather than work on the car itself, which is something he showed frustration over back when Perez was struggling with the car as well. This goes to show that Verstappen is accepting the criticism from his teammates, and rather than pushing in a direction to try and solve these issues, the team is looking for a second driver who will miraculously start to perform right away. Regarding Max's comment about Lawson being faster in Racing Bulls than in Red Bull, which is also a warning as well, Horner has gone on to defend the Kiwi driver despite his poor performance in the first two races. Elaborating further on this, the team principal of Red Bull said, "I think the Racing Bulls is a more settled car in terms of it probably is a little more stable on entry. It probably has a bit more understeer in that car and therefore is easier to adapt to. But you can see the difference in pace in the cars on a longer stint. But I think in terms of finding the limit in a car that has inherent understeer, it's always going to be easier than finding the limit in a car that is a little bit more edgy. The car's behavior naturally asks for more time to adapt to. And if there is one driver who should know this, it's Yuki Tsunoda, especially since he is the leader to be promoted and get his seat swapped with Lawson, something that the F1 world feels should have been. Let's look at the positive. Isaac Hajar, who has never driven on this track before, is setting incredible times in his second race, making no mistakes. Yuki is right behind him, but Yuki is in his fifth season, while Isaac is completely new. And then he sets such a time. So far, what he has shown is absolutely fascinating. In Australia, his performance was also sensational until the accident. It's happened to others. The sun and the shadow are close together, and we'll see what happens. The comments were made right after Hajar said that he is 100% ready to take over the seat in Japan in a press conference after the Chinese GP. After his statement, he was pulled aside by a PR person from the Italian-based squad, which goes to show that there is a very delicate situation that needs to be solved behind closed doors. But again, Tsunoda being promoted to Red Bull is all but a solution for both sides, because the fact that he's performing well in Racing Bulls doesn't automatically mean he will be a good choice for the Austrian squad as well. If we are to remember correctly, Lawson did score points in Singapore in 2023 in a quite difficult race. But this is a sport with a short memory. Last year, he scored points in Austin because of the disqualifications of Leclerc and Hamilton in a much more inferior car. And this year, even with Gasly being disqualified, apart from the Ferrari duo, the Kiwi driver was still left without points. This goes to show that a massive gap needs to be filled, and whether or not Tsunoda has the tools to do so, time will tell. But time is running out on Tsunoda as well. We do know that the team is not willing to keep him for a long period of time if he doesn't get the Red Bull promotion. This has been said by Horner, and although he didn't hope for such a poor debut from Lawson, the situation is loud and clear. Either he gets an opportunity with the Austrian team, or they will have to say goodbye and promote another youngster. And with Arvid Lindblad waiting on the sidelines, it would be very much expected for Racing Bulls to make way and explore his potential, even though the driver situation in the Italian-based squad is always varying and surprises are always present.